Hello, everyone, and welcome to Get Real with Chris and Mark. Obviously, we are not Chris and Mark. They could not make it here today, so we are usually the people behind the camera. And we just decided to fill in for them because, the show must go on. My name is JJ Atchison. You guys know me as a journalist. I'm on the Baynet Weekly News. I've been on the show a couple times as a guest. And I'm joined here today with Katie. Tell them about yourself, Katie.
Yeah, my name's Katie Callander, and I'm a graphic designer at the Baynet. And normally I'm the one that edits these podcasts together.
Yeah, so, we know how the show goes. And today we wanted to give our own crack at it. And we're going to be talking about why young people are not staying in Southern Maryland. Is it the jobs? Is it the entertainment? We're about to find out. And to help us with that, we have somebody who's not from Southern Maryland, but is a fellow young person. He's from the state of New Jersey. It's Alex. Welcome, Alex.
That's the first time I've ever heard anybody applaud after mentioning New Jersey. That was incredible.
So, Alex, what do you do for the Baynet? Why are you here today?
Well, I actually interned for the Baynet a while back, and part of that internship was actually building this beautiful studio here that we're in currently, right now. And then I actually helped do a lot of the audio early on in the process and helped set all that up. I'm a musician as one of my many things, so I know those kinds of programs. That's kind of how that started.
Well, thanks for joining us today.
Of course, as a fellow young person.
Yeah, definitely. Tell us about your thoughts on Southern Maryland as an outsider coming in.
It's a culture shock in a good way. I feel like, I'm from Central Jersey, and that's close enough to New York and to PA and even Upper Maryland, where you have access to a lot of different things, a lot of different areas, and it's great. But it's also really busy and chaotic. I feel like being on a peninsula, specifically so far down, where you're kind of right at the edge of Virginia, so it feels a little bit more southern. I feel like it definitely has its own character and its own flavor here. Being by the water all the time, but not necessarily like that Jersey Shore energy is also really cool. So it's definitely very different, and it has its own unique energy, which is interesting. I definitely have never really felt this specific kind of way about an area before.
So you said you're close to New York. Are you close to New York City or just the state?
Both. I think I'm about an hour away from,
Okay.
like state, and then New York City itself I'm about 20 minutes away from.
Oh my gosh. So basically you're right next to the city where people from this area say they wish they could live in, pretty much. So do you often visit New York City and do stuff there?
I feel like when you're from my area, you start to kind of naturally take it for granted. I'm sure that you guys probably feel like that about D.C. or Annapolis or places like that.
That's true.
For me, it's like, D.C. was something that I didn't go to very often when I was younger. It was just like, it was like very magical and cool, if you will. But yeah, no, I mean, it's a great place to live. It's a great place to be a part of, and it's one of those places that if I didn't live near it, I would definitely miss not being there. But while I'm living there, it's not necessarily something that I'm going to all the time.
So most people from your area, even though they're literally right next to New York City, they would rather kind of go away from the area?
I feel like it's natural for people to want to go away from the area they grew up. I personally like my area, and I like living there. I still do. I'm 28. To answer your original question about, I have friends who go there very often who love it. I think it's cool. I just don't necessarily do it that much, and it's just something that I know is there. But I'm sure you guys feel the same way about a lot of the beach life and some of the other things you have around here. I know when I first kind of started coming down here, there were things that I heard about, or even local things that I've seen on the Get Real podcast that I think are really cool and interesting that I don't necessarily have it by me that I think are great, that probably people who are local here would be like, oh yeah, that's a thing that we normally deal with.
I definitely do want to tackle this because I feel like we can figure out a common ground for most young people in this area. And for me, I think it comes down to two topics, like I mentioned earlier, entertainment and job opportunities. Can we grow a life here, especially in current economic, status? But I think let's go over the entertainment side, because I feel like these two topics we're going to find that, I don't know, me personally, I feel like New York City is above Southern Maryland so much. So I think it's going to be fun. But in terms of entertainment, here in Southern Maryland, I don't believe there's that much to do. for people our age. Just for context, I'm 20 years old. I'm not old enough to go to bars and drink, so all that stuff is out the window pretty much for me. So what I do for fun, I play video games and go to the gym because that's just all.
Which you can in fact do in any area. Both of those things.
Yeah, and it's so like in terms of Southern Maryland areas, like no, there's cool restaurants that have good food, but that's not entertaining. You know what I mean?
Okay, but let me ask you this though: if and this is a loaded question, but
Mm-hmm.
like if you were looking to do something that wasn't those two things, which again you can do anywhere,
Yeah.
like when you walk out of your house, like what do you wish that you had, or do you not know?
So it's so interesting because I went on a trip to Florida not too long ago, and I haven't been to Florida in forever. It was Lutz, Florida, because that's where my brother lived. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be Florida. There's gonna be so many things to do. We're gonna be there for like a week. I'm gonna have so much fun. I get there, and I realize it's the exact same thing as here, just in another state, different
Another peninsula.
environment. What do you do for fun? Well, you have to drive 20 minutes to Tampa. You have to drive, a whole hour to one of the cool beaches that they have. I'm not a beach person, don't like beaches, so I don't care. Let's go to Tampa. There were some cool things to do in Tampa, but again, it's just like you said, what are those things? I mean, there was an arcade there that had like laser tag.
You don't have
An arcade would be cool.
You don't have an arcade.
We don't
here.
have an arcade.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in
Yeah.
terms of like those little things that now it's a lot of money. We spent a lot of money that day. I wouldn't do it every single day. But if we had that chance to do something like that every couple weeks, maybe every once a week, that would be amazing. But really, other than that, there was not much different. And then I asked myself this question, like you said, I don't know what I want. Maybe it's just I'm so bored, I don't know.
But it's you want the freedom
the
to
freedom
be
to
able
go
to
wherever I
explore and to like
Yeah.
have the ability to go look for new things because you feel like you've kind of like
Exactly.
saturated yourself about what.
And
you
I
have.
think that's where most people our age are stuck at, is that we think the idea of entertainment, and I think this ties into a lot with social media. And I sound like an old person when I say that. But
What is social? You're talking about the Twitter? Or can you
yeah,
clarify?
the
Facebook?
chat
the,
snap.
the Facebook. Oh, the chat snap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that thing called now?
Thread?
Needle thread or
Sewing.
sewing.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Absolutely.
And then there's graham cracker.
Grandpa?
Grandpa. That's what it is. Anyway, so
Got it.
whatever we
Absolutely.
see on those platforms. Oh, and the tiki.
Oh, that one's my favorite.
Sticky
I don't
tack.
really.
That's
I don't.
what it is.
I don't really enjoy Taco Bell
Yeah.
that much, but that's really
Yeah.
cool that you get.
But whenever you see like fun things, quote unquote, on those platforms, it's like, oh, if you visit here, here's all these things that you could do. If you visit here, here's all these things that you could do. But I feel like once you live there, it's kind of different because you just get used to it, So I'm like, maybe that's the issue, is that we see all these things or places on social media, and we're like, oh, we wish this place is like that. But then you come to the realization that that's just not how it is in real life. You can make things look a billion times better on social media than when you're actually
The
in that
grass
area.
is always greener.
But that's always why I say around here you really have to make your own fun, because I truly believe that there is a lot of things to do here.
But what do you mean by make your own fun?
To start, you have to have people that you want to hang out with that share the same type of interests. I know a lot of people that like outdoors things here, so like kayaking, hiking, going to the beach, boating, that kind of thing. And then there's the whole business aspect of it too, where we have the bars, so much live music. Our live music around here has come so far within the last couple years since COVID happened. There is always something going on.
I feel like it's just a matter of people feeling like there's nothing to do down here because they need to kind of escape like the area that you guys are specifically in.
Yeah.
It's like that syndrome. You talked about Florida.
Yeah.
And it's like that idea of like, oh, if you're down far in Florida, you have to go all the way up and go like a couple hours away just to get out of like that peninsula, just to
Yeah.
get farther up into Florida.
But that is funny. It's exactly the same thing here because we're only an hour away from D.C., where
Yeah, I mean-
there's a whole other world of things to do.
Yeah, and like you were talking about how like New York, being near New York, so with traffic, New York's about an hour away from me.
Yeah,
And that's about the
true.
same, and that's about the same for you with DC. Like I
True.
think DC is like a magical land because I'm not down here. The same way you probably look at New York like that.
I do want to hear more. So, like, how do you make your own fun? So, I know you guys are older than me, so you have a lot more freedom in terms of going to bars.
How old are you again,
Yeah.
Miss Callander? Are you?
I'm 26, but
Oh,
JJ, I
okay.
completely understand where you're coming from because one time a friend a little bit younger than me, she told me that she felt like there was nothing to do here because she doesn't like drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the activities around here are centered around drinking, but I kind of want to throw it out there too that you can still have fun and go to these places even though you don't drink.
Yeah, it's true.
That's putting people on the spot a little bit though. Like I'm not a huge drinker, and for a couple of like when I was younger, like I definitely like didn't go out to bars very often. That's a lot of pressure if you're not like a drinker to be like, oh, I'm gonna go hang out at a bar with friends.
I'm not talking about necessarily a bar, but we
Okay.
have a lot of festivals around here.
Okay,
There's different
true.
festivals throughout the year. There's like the Oyster Festival, the Jazz Festival just happened.
I think the issue with those, though, is that maybe this area just doesn't accommodate my interests.
Okay.
I am not an oyster fan.
And do you feel like you're in the minority or the majority?
Oh, the minority.
Really?
Like, in terms of interests, yeah.
No, I'm talking about in terms of like other youths.
Oh, yeah. I think so. Like, my biggest gripe with the music scene, which is a great music scene for this area, the fact that we have so much going on is amazing and it's fantastic. And I will say there's some great bands out there. But in terms of the music scene, it's just not my type of music. It's not. You know?
Do you feel like you have friends that you think relate to your sentiment with that?
Yeah, my girlfriend's the exact same way.
Yeah.
You know, like we went to the Tiki Bar, and I will say it was one of the weekdays, so I was allowed to go in. if I had my, over 21, my girlfriend's 21, so that was my ticket in. I sat there, drank some soda, and listened to the band. It was like old classic rock, which again isn't my type. I'm more of an alternative, even sometimes metal. Two very different genres. But,
Edgy.
And I know there's
Yeah.
a metal festival coming up, but in terms of like going to like a place and sitting down and listening to that music, I can't find it as much. But it's just I feel like this area just doesn't accommodate to people like me. So other than chilling out at these places and listening to the music, and I can't really do it that often because I don't have that many friends, and I feel like there's not a lot of opportunities here in this area for people my age to make friends if you're not in like a school.
I would agree with that.
So it's just like I think this area just isn't for me.
Let me ask you both this. I think I'm hijacking from the hijackers right now. If we get real quick. But let me ask you guys.
Are you the host or are we the host?
So, in my area, I don't know. There are some people in my specific town that have like been there and like lived there their whole lives. Not that often though. I feel like coming down here, there's a huge majority of people who have been born and raised here, and they went to high school here, and they know all the same people. And there's like little local institutions like, oh, don't you know who this person is? There's a huge kind of like regional like pride down in Southern Maryland like that I don't necessarily have up by me. So do you feel like a lot of your opinions are either positively or negatively skewed by the fact that there are so many local people who have been kind of like born and raised here, no matter if they're 30, 40, 70?
I think so. I think it's just like I look at those people, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing for them to do. If they're happy here, dude, stay here, be happy, But I look at those people, and that's just not what I want to do.
Yeah.
So I see that, and I'm like, I need to go. Like, I need to get out as soon as I can.
And to that point,
or I will get stuck here, I feel like.
And to that point, I feel like part of the reason why I specifically like my areas and because I have never felt that pressure of like, oh, look at all these people who have been born and raised here.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's kind of doing their own thing. So if you want to stay, I do feel like there is a little bit more. And again, this is an outsider's
That's an
perspective.
interesting point.
Like,
Yeah.
I feel like you see a lot of people who've just known each other their whole lives and they're perfectly happy with it. So I could see that being a turnoff to the youth.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this will be my last point towards this, and then we'll go on to the other topic of job stuff and career growth.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, but I feel like we get new businesses all the time, but every time we get a new business, it's nothing unique. And I never see it. If I'm missing it, somebody please tell me.
I do feel
Axe
like
throwing?
There's axe throwing, which is great. I love axe throwing.
I have axe throwing.
We went there, had a fun time, But other than that, it's just like, oh, here's a new bar. Look at all the same drinks that were. Oh, I'm not in the drinks.
I will say that around here, you guys have a lot more of a passion for like when businesses, whether they're chains or local, come into your area. When a new store
It's a big
opens up,
deal.
when
It's
a
a
new
big
store
deal,
opens
yeah.
up by me, it's not necessarily a big deal. There's shopping centers and stores open up and close all the time. When you guys get something new, it is a big deal. And again, I feel like that is that peninsula energy of being entrapped again when something finally kind of makes their way down here.
But it's just like, oh, it's another restaurant. Like that's not what
True.
we wanted.
I do
At least
feel-
that's not what I wanted.
Yeah, you
There
want
was supposed to
something-
be an arcade that was supposed to open in Lusby, but for some reason it fell through, and it's just like,
Do you feel like seeing people who are local, who have been here their whole lives, do you feel like that has skewed your opinion, whether positive or good in any way?
I think it does make it harder to leave because families are so rooted here.
True. I can get
that's
that.
true.
Yeah.
My family is literally here.
Yeah.
And on my end, I have family who's in Maryland. I have family in Catonsville, Maryland. Okay. And I have family in Pennsylvania, and I have family in New York. I have family all over. I have family in New Jersey.
That's not the case for me. My family that I'm close to, they're all here in Southern Maryland.
Yeah. So
I
that
have
would,
one uncle in Virginia, and my brother was in Florida, and that was like the first time I've ever went out of state to visit someone else's family. So it was, yeah.
but do you like the fact that they're all here and they've been born and raised here? And if you don't know, that's okay. But like, do you feel like that has made you more passionate about staying here? Not because
I think it definitely has, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Because like your family doesn't want you to move away.
Yeah.
So I guess this will be a good segue. I feel like, because I want to get into this type of career where it's like on-air personality, creative jobs where I can just, be on podcasts, be on a radio station, do creative work. There's nothing here for that. Other than
There it
Bayonet,
is,
which
okay.
is great,
Yeah.
great starting place, but I do have...
TheBayonet.com,
bigger.
ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen. I heard there's a membership thing starting soon. Is
Starting
that-
soon.
Okay, I've been hearing
Yeah,
rumors and
starting
whispers.
soon, so
Okay, interesting.
Pay attention. Anyway, I have bigger goals, aspirations, and those just simply aren't here. And in order for me to achieve those, I need to get out. But in this current economic situation, I don't have enough money to get out. And I can't find those things here sometimes, it feels like.
But to her point earlier about making her own fun,
Mm-hmm.
do you feel, and by her I meant Miss Caitlin Callander, graphic designer at thebayonet.com, do you feel like you could make those opportunities if you hustled and been more apparent
Yeah.
in this local area? Not saying that you want to live here,
Yeah.
but saying some people, I'm sure, would hear that
Yeah.
and
Just say
would
maybe.
listen to it on thebayonet.com, and they would say, "Oh, you're not thinking about all your options
Yeah.
and all your resources down here." Do you feel like that, or do you really genuinely feel like no, like there's probably easier, better opportunities elsewhere?
I can definitely see that point, and that's why, I'm trying to get into the other areas that I'm interested in, like, photography, videography. Whenever the opportunities come up to be on a podcast here, I try and take it. I see different little opportunities here and there in this area that I haven't even tapped into yet. But, in terms of just where I want to be, I know for a fact it's not here. Like, I know for a fact. And it's no dig at this area.
Of course.
It's just that it's not here. NBC is not here. Fox, CNN, any other big corporation is not here. Any other big-time network, thing that allows me to do what I want to do is not here.
And I can get how, like, looking at, like, those kind of end goals and how they aren't necessarily here can kind of inspire, like, the wanting to, like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also bring in the lifestyle and entertainment factors. My lifestyle just does not accommodate here. I'm not a drinker. I don't plan on... I'm not old enough to drink. But I don't plan on drinking anyway when I do get older. So the bar scene, the... drinking scene, beer fest, all that doesn't intrigue me. But anyway, you guys are graphic designers, and I heard you guys talking about it a little bit with AI coming in and stuff like that, and the career is basically ever so changing. What are your guys' thoughts on this area, and even your area too, Alex? Like, do you think your areas will accommodate that career going forward?
I will say, from my specific area, much like your area down here, the price of living is incredibly high. I still live at home. It's really just hard to find a path in that point.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my friends who are in my age range still live at home, because if you want to stay in that area, which is a nice area, what are you going to do? When
Yeah.
apartments and when prices of renting are, for something decent, are between $2,000 and $2,500, which I think it's a little cheaper down by you. I'm not a realtor though, so I don't know that specifically.
Only Chris and Mark were here.
But Chris and Mark are realtors, and if you want to check them out, Century 21 New Millennium.
That was good. There you go. You got it.
Yeah.
But I will say that, like, it's very discouraging because for me personally, right, like, I could be in a situation where I could try to look for a job, and if that job starting salary with, like, minimal to, like, some experience is paying, like, anywhere between $40,000 to $45,000 for a first job as a salary, that's great. It's not enough to move out at that point.
Yeah.
You'd be living, like, hand to mouth. And some people would say, the non-youths, looking at you, would say that is the struggle that everyone needs to go through, and that's true, but we are in an era nowadays where everything is moving so quickly and everything is adjusting, and inflation is much more rapid, and it's much more difficult to survive, that it's very discouraging to take those opportunities if you're in a higher priced area. If you want to stay in Southern Maryland per se too, because I know that it's expensive down here, it is very negative knowing that you need to make a certain amount of money to stay down here when a lot of your options are minimal to begin with.
I do agree that it's very limited down here with what you can do. It seems like the only jobs that you can really get making like at least $70,000 a year are jobs that are on base. And for me personally, I don't see myself working in that type of environment or going in that direction. So yeah, I am kind of at a loss if I'm going to stay here or move away, and it really comes down to if I'm going to find a job here or somewhere else.
And to kind of go back to what I was talking about as far as like price of living and all that other stuff, so does some of that have to do with the discouragement of like...
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't feel so pressured to make so much if I knew that I could get a house and have a cheaper rent where I could live by myself. But at this point in time, with rent being so high, I would have to find at least one, maybe even two other people to live with in order to make that happen.
And to that point, that might be maybe why people might look at, in this area specifically, may look and be like, well, why are people moving away? Like, why are people not doing the same things that we did?
But me personally, if I'm going to stay here in Southern Maryland or not, nope. I'm actually considering moving out of the country at some point.
Wow.
Okay.
'Cause at this point in time, this could change, but at this point in time, I just don't think this country in general is going to be able to give me what I want. Do I know if there's another country out there? No. So that's why I'm going to experiment. I might live there for like a year or two. If I like it, I'll stay. If
That's
I
a
don't,
great goal.
I'll come back.
Yeah.
No, that's really great.
You know?
What about you, Miss Callander?
It's all about getting out there and exploring.
Absolutely.
You really don't know what you want until you see it.
I would agree with that. I'm kind of...
And maybe that is our problem because we see everything on the social media nowadays.
That's true.
And then it just inspires more and wanting more, and you never really have like that like limit set.
There's a lot of people you can compare yourself to,
True.
and then you just feel...
As opposed to when you are in pre-social media, when you were in that box and you had like that black and white goal.
Yeah, it was like a
And-
blindfold.
Yeah,
Like you didn't know what was out
But
there.
and a blindfold isn't necessarily a bad thing, because when you
It
know
gets you
everything
to
that's
where you
out
need
there,
to be.
yeah, because whenever you have the ability to look at everything that's out there, then you never really necessarily know what you want. You're always jumping from thing to thing.
Well, I think this is a good ending point.
Yeah,
this is a
I think we
rabbit
need to
hole.
wrap this up.
Yeah.
I need to go to therapy now. Thank you,
But
guys.
on our next episode, we're going to be talking about college degrees and other stuff. I don't know. We might not have another episode. We'll see.
Oh, are we actually gonna? I have one of those. It's not helping me much.
Well, we'll see if Chris and Mark ever make it back to their podcast.
Yeah,
Whoa.
they kind of just they left. We don't know where they are. Please help find them. If you're out there, give us a call.
I'm actually being held hostage right now by these two.
Okay,
so if
let's stop
anybody...
this recording right now.